This episode of Pod Session is brought to you by topnaturalhealth.com, your go-to source for nature-based supplements, skincare, and anti-aging products. Visit their site for special promo code pricing on all of the products mentioned in this episode. Now here's your hosts.
Ever notice how we kind of expect disaster response to be like clockwork? You know, FEMA swoops in, Red Cross is right behind them, everyone's got it handled, but like, what happens when that whole system gets thrown out of whack? That's what's so gripping about the Hurricane Helene situation. It really throws a wrench in those expectations. And we've got a ton to dig into news articles, giving us that broad view, firsthand stories from volunteers that'll really stay with you. And of course, the official statements, which, let's be honest, sometimes feel like they're coming from a whole other planet. Our goal here is to cut through all that, find the stuff that really matters, the stuff that might just help us navigate the next disaster a little better.
It's wild, right? You see this almost instinctive rush of volunteers just pouring in, hearts on their sleeves, ready to work. And then you've got the, shall we say, more measured pace of the government aid machine.
Yeah.
Like two totally different worlds trying to occupy the same space.
Exactly. And speaking of those volunteers, we got to talk about Operation Airdrop and Heart. These folks were the definition of where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, try wrapping your head around those 673 flights, over 1.2 million pounds of supplies, all coordinated out of a single airport. The logistics alone make my head spin.
And this wasn't just any old supplies. This was targeted, essential stuff. Operation Airdrop, they've got this knack for reaching communities that are totally cut off, and the usual roads are gone. And HART, the Hurricane Aid Response Team, they're all about getting medical help in there fast. These groups weren't just filling gaps, they were literal lifesavers.
Fueled by what seemed like pure adrenaline and grit. We came across some pretty heavy quotes from the folks on the ground. One that stuck with me was from Doug Jackson. He's been part of a bunch of disaster relief efforts, seen it all, and even he said he'd never seen anything like it, talking about the level of destruction. When someone with that much experience says that, you know it's bad.
And you gotta remember, the people on the ground weren't just dealing with the physical wreckage, but this mounting frustration too. Remember Ryan Swain, 9 days in, still no FEMA, no nothing. Can you imagine pouring your heart into helping your community, and it feels like the help you were promised is just gone?
It really drives home that disconnect we were talking about earlier. Sure, the Pentagon eventually sent in 1,000 soldiers, and yeah, $100 million got earmarked for rebuilding. But the big question these first-hand accounts bring up is, was any of that reaching the people who needed it most when they needed it most?
Especially when you consider that even before Helene made landfall, FEMA Administrator Criswell was already hinting to Congress that they'd probably need supplemental funding. Sounds like they knew they were walking into a potential budget shortfall right from the get-go.
So you've got this wave of support from volunteers, which is incredible, but looming over it all is this question of funding, of whether the resources are actually going to be there for the long haul. And as if that wasn't enough, there's this whole other storm brewing, misinformation.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what they say about nature abhorring a vacuum? Well, misinformation seems to love chaos and uncertainty. Just thrives in those spaces.
It's like everyone's trying to put out a fire, but some folks are running around with gasoline cans instead of water. And you can't talk about Helene without mentioning those totally baseless accusations thrown around about FEMA and immigrants. Thankfully, Homeland Security stepped in and shut that down pretty quickly.
And it's crucial to remember, this wasn't just harmless gossip. This kind of misinformation, it preys on people when they're at their most vulnerable, creates fear, distrust, right when unity and cooperation are absolutely essential. I mean, people were straight up afraid to ask for help because of these lies.
And the thing is, the impact was tangible. The Red Cross, they actually had to come out publicly and debunk rumors that they were keeping donations for themselves.
Hey guys, just a quick reminder that today's episode is brought to you by topnaturalhealth.com, home of the world's #1 top-rated nature-based supplements, skincare, and anti-aging products. Be sure to visit their site at topnaturalhealth.com for special promo code pricing for our listeners. Now, back to our show.
Just think about that for a second. They're trying to help people, and they have to waste precious time and energy fighting off these completely unfounded attacks.
Really highlights a fundamental issue in disaster response, doesn't it? That battle for trust. Because when you've got conflicting stories flying around, people lose faith in institutions and their own ability to tell what's real and what's not. It's a mess.
It's like we're talking about a whole other kind of disaster, you know? How do you even start to fix that erosion of trust? FEMA put up a fact-checking website, which, okay, Seems like a step in the right direction, but is that really going to cut it?
I mean, it's a start, right?
Yeah.
But you've got to remember how fast misinformation spreads, especially with social media these days. Having a website, even a good one, it's not like it's some magic bullet, especially for the folks who are already primed to believe those rumors or who just don't trust anything official in the first place.
So then how do we build up that resilience we keep coming back to? Not just to the hurricanes themselves, but to this whole other mess of bad information that seems to come swirling in right behind them.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Education's got to be part of it, teaching people to think critically, how to evaluate what they're seeing online. But honestly, we also have to look at the bigger picture, the systemic stuff that makes certain communities more vulnerable to this kind of thing in the first place. Like, think about unequal access to tech, to education. Heck, even just basic trust in government institutions.
It's a good reminder that disaster response, it's not just about putting bandages on the immediate problems. It's about understanding those deeper issues, the stuff that often gets blown wide open when a crisis hits.
Exactly. And that kind of leads us to another challenge, which is how do you channel all that goodwill, that urge to help that people feel after a disaster? You see those images, and it's just human nature to want to do something, anything to make a difference.
Oh, I get it. We've all been there, right? Disaster hits, and suddenly everyone you know is loading up the car, ready to play hero.
And listen, it comes from a good place, but when you've got a bunch of people rushing in with zero coordination, it can actually do more harm than good.
Yeah.
Remember how North Carolina officials were practically begging people to stop self-deploying? They weren't kidding around.
So it's not enough to just show up. You gotta show up in a way that actually helps.
Bingo. Imagine, right, your house just flooded. Bad enough, right? Now picture dozens of well-meaning folks showing up with armfuls of clothes, cleaning supplies, the whole 9 yards. Overwhelming, yeah. Now try dealing with that while you're also trying to wrangle insurance people, find contractors, and figure out where your family's going to sleep that night.
Suddenly those helping hands don't seem so helpful anymore, huh? Makes you understand why groups like North Carolina voluntary organizations active in disaster, they're so big on structured volunteer efforts.
It's crucial, especially right after a disaster. You need that coordination to make sure resources aren't wasted, that the help actually gets to the people who need it most.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing that need for structure. It doesn't just disappear after a few days or weeks.
Right, this isn't some weekend project. Rebuilding after something like Hurricane Helene, that's months, years of work. Think about the sheer scale of it all. Houses destroyed, businesses gone, roads washed out. No amount of donations, no matter how generous, is going to magically fix that overnight.
It's about moving beyond that initial burst of support and building something that lasts. It's about understanding that recovery is a marathon, not a sprint. And honestly, it's a marathon a lot of folks aren't prepared for.
And it sounds like there are things being put in place to try and smooth that transition, like the centralized volunteer registration systems and information hubs. Are those steps in the right direction, at least?
They are, definitely. And it's good to see those kinds of systems being put in place. But just having them isn't enough, is it? You got to make sure they actually work, that they stay effective over time. That means constant communication, being able to adapt, and owning up to mistakes when they happen. Because let's face it, Helene wasn't the first hurricane, and it sure as heck won't be the last.
We've covered a lot here, haven't we? From those amazing volunteers to the dark side of misinformation to this long, complicated road to recovery. It's a lot to take in. What's really stuck with you through all this?
You know, for me, it's that even though disasters can reveal how vulnerable we are, they also show just how resilient we can be. It's like a reminder that even when things seem absolutely awful, there's still that human capacity for compassion, for creativity, for just plain digging deep and rebuilding. And that's something worth holding on to.
And that's really the thing, isn't it? That urge to come together, to rebuild. It's like this bright spot in all the darkness. But it also makes you realize, how much responsibility comes with that. Like the choices we make now, all of us are going to echo through these communities for years to come.
No doubt about it. And that feeling that we're all in this together, it's something you see again and again after these kinds of events. Neighbors helping neighbors, communities rallying around those who lost everything. It's powerful stuff.
Definitely. Makes you realize that